Commemorations are being held today, marking the 80th anniversary of the start of the Second World War in Poland. The German Chancellor, Angela Merkel, will be amongst those gathering in Poland to mark the occasion. It was also the event which triggered the British entry into the war. Well, Stephen spoke to the historian and author Roger Moorhouse, who has just written a book about the Polish campaign, and the Polish ambassador to the UK, Arkady Rzegocki, about the significance of the anniversary.
I mean, the 80th anniversary of the beginning of the Second World War is very important event and opportunity to remind about this important war, which was one of the biggest tragedy in human history, not only in European history. And because we both, I mean, Poles and British fought against Nazi Germany together, we have to remember about that.
Why do you think, Roger, that this hasn't been given the credence that it should have been?
I think the Western sort of English-speaking narrative of World War II is very thorough. I mean, we share many of the same sort of obsessions with World War II that the Poles do, that, you know, it's very much a formative experience for us as a nation. But actually, our understanding of some of the finer points of it is actually astonishingly parochial. And this is a very good example that the September campaign of 1939, the Polish War, which is the reason that Britain declares war on Germany on the 3rd of September, that's described in the standard British narrative as the period of the phony war. This is the war in which nothing much happens for about 8 months until the German invasion of France. So you can see that actually there's a profound sort of imbalance in that analysis, because what's going on in the eastern half of Europe is a massive military campaign. 200,000 are killed, the destruction of a nation, and to describe that period as the phony war is rather perverse.
Indeed so. I mean, 200,000 people killed in what, about 5 weeks?
5 weeks. It was, in fact, it was very serious war, in fact. And we have to remember that after 1st of September, it was 17th of September when Soviet Russia invaded Poland. So it was very difficult time, but also very heroic. And we have to remember about all these people who resist and who fought with these two totalitarian regimes.
And in terms of that resistance, I mean, it's worth saying, isn't it, that that resistance lasted a lot longer than Hitler was expecting?
Oh, I think 4 weeks later, but after that, there was a huge underground resistance, about 300,000-400,000 soldiers underground in Poland, but also a lot of soldiers fighting from France, and after that from the United Kingdom, also from the Russian side. So we have to remember that Poles were present on almost all fronts in Europe and out of Europe.
It was, Roger, wasn't it, a hugely brave resistance in those early days?
It is, because the Poles, I mean, the Poles are actually relatively well equipped. That sort of stereotypical image we have of cavalry against tanks, which is still remarkably durable. I mean, it's German wartime mythology, German wartime propaganda. Actually, the Poles were relatively well equipped. They're relatively well supplied. They have tanks, for example. They're not all on horseback. But they are facing the most advanced, technologically advanced military machine that the planet saw at that time, in the Germans. And we're very much up against it. They're sort of geographically doomed as well, because the Germans are attacking from 3 sides, from north, west and south. So it's an extremely difficult campaign for the Poles, and they put up a very stiff resistance, which is something that we traditionally don't recognise.
But that resistance put up in the expectation of British and French assistance, which just didn't come at that time, Mr. Ambassador.
We have to remember about that, but also remember about that because it's important for the future. The truth is, I'm not historian, I'm academic but not historian, but in my perspective, especially French troops played very important role in Europe this time. So it was probably the best time to cooperate and to fight with Nazi Germany at this time. So there's very important lesson that all together we are much stronger.
How important is the commemoration that is taking place, and the fact that you are inviting, key world leaders, including from Germany?
There's very important commemoration, mostly in Warsaw, at the 1st of September, and there was a lot of leaders from NATO countries, European Union countries, also Eastern Partnership countries, because we all remember that it was very, very important event.
OK, look, very good to talk to you both. Arkady Rzegocki and Roger Moorhouse, thanks very much indeed.
Pleasure.
Thank you.